Welcome to this episode of our program Daily Debate. As usual, we will be discussing an important topic. Tonight, we'll be focusing on the development in the Sinai Peninsula. Sinai is a very attractive area for investments. It links 3 continents, Africa, Asia, and Europe. It has promising opportunities, whether in industry, mining, tourism, agriculture, and other fields that supported the Egyptian economy. The area has become ready to attract foreign investments, particularly after the armed forces were able to impose security and get rid of the extremist, or rather terrorist organizations that sought to spread chaos in this area. Since 2014, and Egypt has spent billions of pounds on development and construction projects in Sinai at large. We're speaking about Sinai, the area, we're speaking about Sinai, the economic zone, we're speaking about the cities that are in Sinai. The state has been in a race against time to implement several mega developmental projects in Sinai in record time that include road, bridges, tunnel projects, definitely agricultural, touristic, industrial, schools, universities, research centers, hospitals, and many of the infrastructure projects. Tonight, we'll be focusing on this topic with our guest, Dr. Said Kholy, Professor of Economics. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Our pleasure. Before we delve into our discussion, let's first have this quick report and President Sisi review status of developments in Sinai. Let's watch.
Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli said President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi directed the government to bring about a significant shift in the development projects underway in North Sinai, whether road or service projects for better quality of public services. Madbouli said the development efforts will start with Al Arish city, and other cities and villages will follow suit, a part of the state's development plan for their governorate, instructing their ministries and relevant bodies to agree on priority projects. Minister of Local Development Hisham Amna said the government development strategy for North Sinai targets better basic social services, including education, healthcare, sports and entertainment, while improving business services at public service offices and supporting agricultural complexes as well as small businesses. President el-Sisi has held a number of meetings during the past weeks to review the status of development in Sinai. The President gave directives to continue efforts to implement the General Plan for Comprehensive Development in Sinai, including land reclamation projects aimed at increasing agricultural lands in Central and North Sinai and maximizing the urban area and productivity within the framework of the state's comprehensive strategy for agriculture and land reclamation nationwide. The President also stressed the importance of coordination and integration among the various state agencies to audit the databases of all development projects in Sinai, as they are an essential element for maximizing results and enhancing the state's activity to review and improve services provided. He also reviewed the status of land reclamation in North and Central Sinai, in addition to irrigation, water allocations, and the percentages and types of agricultural crops that were produced. The head of state also reviewed progress with regard to developmental communities, fishermen's villages, and Bedouin houses in Sinai, as well as the status of the industrial and handicraft zones in Al Arish and New Rafah, the industrial zone in Bir Al Abd, and services such as drinking water, sanitation, roads, and access. The state strategy involves connecting the government population with the Suez Canal region and South Sinai Governorate, The minister added, citing development projects along the North Sinai's coastal line, 2 tourist resorts, a tourist walkaway, industrial parks near the Suez Canal region, and a logistics hub to benefit from the governorate's mineral resources.
Right, welcome back and into our discussion at once with Dr. Said Kholy, Professor of Economics. Thank you again for being with us.
Pleasure to be here.
And as we see, there is a political will for the development of Sinai Peninsula. Why Sinai is a prior fire for Egypt?
Remember, Sinai, it was neglected for thousands of years from development, from building infrastructure and so on.
Thousands of years.
Thousands of years since Moses and
yes.
Really in recent years we saw a lot of development. We tried to, in the last 8 years to be exact, we connected the Sinai Peninsula to the mainland through bridges, through tunnels, through road highways and so on. And remember, Sinai, it has, I believe Sinai is considered to be the safe haven for economical development in Egypt. Why I'm saying that? Sinai, it has a lot of minerals. You can name it from, for example, Nueva to Saint Catherine. All this area, it is rich with a lot of mineral, magnesium, phosphatum, and white sand, black sand, which it really, what we need in order to really enrich our economic development is to pay attention for development in Sinai. It's not only development in terms of housing and infrastructure, but to have an industrial base, because the location of Sinai is considered to be the center of the world. When you look for Sinai, it is really most of the international historian, they talk about Sinai as the center of the world. We are in Africa, we are in Asia, and we are very close to Europe. And Sinai, it really go with the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. And also Sinai, it has the hottest spot for tourism, for example, Sharm el-Sheikh and so on. So if you take a look at Sinai, we've been considering about the tourism sector, but my idea is to really make a mega project in industrial base in order to benefit from this mineral. And when we can do that, we can really develop a strategic alliance with another country like China, European country, even the States, in order to really discover a lot of this mineral and build factory in order to really benefit our economical system.
Let's divide what you said, sir, because what you spoke about is all together. So let's start with the comprehensive plan to change life in Sinai, because there has been this political will since 2014 and to develop this very particular and very dear and precious part of our country, Sinai. There has been a comprehensive national plan to change life in Sinai. How do you see, how do you view the features of this comprehensive plan?
What I see, it is really, I'm always looking for, when we talk about strategy, I'm talking about implementation. And implementation, in order to develop the mega industry, you have to attract state-of-the-art technology in order to build an industrial base or industrial hub in Sinai. That's very important. So we should put the strategy into action, into implementation. Remember, Sinai, it is its area about 61,000 kilometers, and Sinai people, it's only 600,000 live in Sinai. So there is a chance for migration from mainland to Sinai in order to really attract foreign direct investment, which it will help us to reduce our unemployment rate. My belief, Sinai, they have a lot of wealth and they have an opportunity. And up to this point of time, even so, we have a lot of industry going there, but not good enough in order to enrich our economical sector and in our economical growth. If we really attract foreign direct investment to help us with the state of the art technology and come invest and build factories and producing and discovering this mineral, it will help us to really go through many crises we have right now.
Actually, there has been plans to develop the peninsula at large and attract investments, whether local or foreign investments, industrial infrastructure that has been imposed through the economic zone and industrial zones that have been established. All that was made to encourage investors in Sinai and the canal cities. How do you view so far how those complexes are contributing to the Egyptian economy, and how to promote further for investments in this peninsula?
First of all, in order to attract foreign direct investment, you need to have, number one, infrastructure, logistic, and so on. And what I mentioned before, building in the last 8 years, building bridges, a highway, roads, which is a magnificent road now in Sinai. It helped to attract foreign direct investment. The second thing is the power supply. Egypt now have excess power supply, and we really satisfy our local need, and we export the excess of our power to other neighbor countries. So that is infrastructure, power supply, and now security in Sinai. If you recall, like 8-10 years ago, it was really a lot of tourism activity going on in Sinai, and we have to secure our border, and it's safe haven right now for attracting foreign direct investment. But when we talk about foreign direct investment, we need the people who can really speak the language of attracting foreign direct investment. And when I say foreign direct investment, we should devote it for minerals and build our factory here in Egypt, and we can really have a strategic alliance with other countries where they have the state-of-the-art technology and bring it to Sinai. I believe if we really focus on that strategy right now, I know there is a lot of industry, but not enough in order for the whole area of Sinai. Most of the investment directed toward the South Sinai, but remember Sinai, it is a huge area. As we mentioned, 61,000 kilometers, and really, if we really focus on that in different parts where the minerals are located, Egypt, I believe it will be in a different place in 2 years. If we really utilize our resources, be efficient in utilizing our resources, our use of our resources, and building more and more industrial base, especially for mining and so on.
Infrastructure projects, 5 tunnels or more, roads, bridges, highways, and lots and lots of housing units, even for making it easier for people who work in those complexes. A Russian industrial zone, a Chinese industrial zone.
Yes.
And lately the president also spoke with India to establish an Indian one. Plus, of course, industrial zones are of great significance, particularly in this area. How do you view the potentials of industrial areas in Sinai to further develop and bring about more investments?
As we mentioned before, the opportunity there, but we have to have a team who speaks the world language, how to convince, for example, all of these, whether you're talking about Russian, about Chinese, about Indian, lately when President Sisi visited India, he's really only the president who market Egypt outside of Egypt. I believe we should really have a team, highly expertise team, know how to attract foreign direct investment.
What do you mean? Okay.
Go ahead.
You spoke, because you spoke in several answers with a team. How do you view that? I mean, what should they be doing, this team? What do you mean by a team?
A team, it means a team from managing people, know how to build a feasibility study to attract foreign direct investment, convince them there is a win-win alliance. He can win, our partner can win, and in Egypt can win. Of course, Egypt, it is the location of Sinai Peninsula. It is really a competitive advantage for any foreign country to come and invest here in Egypt, because we are close to Europe, we are close to Africa, we are close to Asia, and with the logistic, with the Suez Canal, for example, it helps us to reduce their transportation costs. If you are talking about China, in order to transport their product from China to any other country in Europe, it costs a lot. But if we really have the team who can speak the language of imposing our competitive advantage in terms of location, in terms of low labor cost, in terms of our minerals, and really we can, with energy and the infrastructure and security also, it is another means, we can convince these people to come and invest in this peninsula. And in order to, but we have to focus in our competitive advantage. Our competitive advantage in China, in Sinai, it is the mineral. So we have to build a really industrial zone for utilizing our resources.
Actually, there are industrial zones.
There is.
But yes, there are several industrial zones in the area. We're speaking, or you spoke about a team to propagate. Feasibility study, I mean, any investor before coming, he should be making his own feasibility study, and whether this investment he would be a winner, because of course we are aware that the investors or the capital stakeholders are usually not very much courageous in taking decisions regarding, so opportunities we have. From your point of view, as you said, what do you mean by propagating the area? What is more needed? I mean, here we have the one-stop shop, right?
Yes.
We have the lands, and there are ready factories made. There are these industrial zones. Transportation is very much facilitated through the monorail and through the speedy train, and through also the Suez Canal, because we'll speak about the Suez Canal separately. What is needed more in order to be able to propagate this area?
What I meant by a team, in order to ease the process of attracting foreign direct investment. And when I say visibility, the visibility, it can be from two sides, from the Egyptian side and from the foreign direct investment side. Of course, they have their own visibility study. You know what kind of business you can get in order to make it win-win.
Propagate opportunities.
And what we really need in this team, we need, as I mentioned, people who can speak the language of strategy, people who can market, marketeers who can market our competitive advantage. As I mentioned, mineral is one of our competitive strategy in Sinai. So we have to be able to market that. All a business which it really operate now in Sinai, we have only one person who market that. When President Sisi was in China, when he was in Russia, he brought a lot of business to invest in Sinai. But remember, we have to have a strategy for the government, We have to have people who can convince and really market our competitive priority here in Egypt. And I'm really sure of having this opportunity. It will be maximized in the future, and we'll be able to attract more and more foreign direct investment. Attracting foreign direct investment, beside whatever you said before, it includes how to ease the process of establishing the business here in Sinai. So we have to really, the lead time for starting business, it should be shortened to the minimal. We should have it in terms of hours instead of months and sometimes years. If we can do that with the digital transformation, with the new technology in information age, we can really attract more and more foreign direct investment. We should really not really focus on real estate, but focus on factory. Not only giving them land, but giving them all necessary needs with the trained employee, where we can really have 100% employment here in Sinai, with their population, of course.
We'll be speaking more about the industrial projects that were already launched and more to come. Before we continue on with our discussion, let's just see this report and development projects inaugurated in Sinai. Let's watch.
Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli toured a number of national projects, both completed and under construction in North Sinai. Madbouli was accompanied by 7 ministers and the governor of North Sinai. In a press conference following the tour, Madbouli hailed President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's wise decision to conduct anti-terrorism campaigns in tandem with development schemes. In February 2018, al-Sisi announced that the government had earmarked £275 billion to secure the future of Sinai. 3 years later, Madbouli said projects to develop and populate the peninsula have cost the state £700 billion so far and are central to Egypt's national security objectives. Madbouli inspected projects in Rafah, Sheikh Zayed and Al Arish, the governorate's capital and largest city. He visited the port of Al Arish, which before being developed covered just 50 faddans. It has now been turned into an international port covering 540 faddans with new 13-meter deep docks. He inspected Al Arish Hospital to follow up on the developments of new buildings, which will raise the level of services so they match those citizens receive in other parts of Egypt. Madbouli also inspected housing projects in Al Arish, as well as the main power station in Al Masaid neighborhood and a seawater desalination plant, both of which are in their trial phase. Madbouli said the power station, which is responsible for generating electricity not only for the city of Al Arish but for other regions in the governorate, has an initial operating capacity of 350 megawatts and will eventually produce 700 megawatts. The seawater desalination plant will have a capacity of 300,000 cubic meters per day when fully completed, benefiting 1.5 million citizens. Currently, it has a capacity of 100,000 cubic meters per day, sufficient for the residents of North Sinai Governorate. The Prime Minister also toured the University of Al Arish, which includes 11 faculties and serves 7,300 students from the Governorate and the newly renovated Court of First Instance. During the press conference, the Prime Minister said he had visited the new city of Rafah during his trip. When completed, the new city will comprise more than 10,000 housing units and 400 Bedouin houses and offer all the services expected in a modern city. In Sheikh Zouayed, Madbouli visited the electricity transformation project. Terrorist attacks in North Sinai have declined following a series of security and military operations. Comprehensive Operation Sinai 2018 succeeded in almost completely eradicating terrorism from North Sinai as well as the Nile Delta and desert areas.
Right, welcome back, and back to you, Dr. Kholy, and we were speaking about the projects, the developmental projects that were in Sinai, beside, of course, the mega national projects or the mega industrial complexes. The Russian, the Chinese, the Indian, and more countries are very well welcomed. We also are speaking about some of the small and medium complexes. We're speaking here about more than 5,428 projects, for instance, funded by the National Project for Community, Human and Local Development, Mashruak, or your projects, that is from one side. Decent Life also has been into very much establishing some of the projects for small and for small macro and
intermediate business.
And micro, exactly. Lots of money were spent really in this very particular area for those projects. Besides the developmental projects, there is also what you said respectively here, the location of Sinai. And the location, one of the most important issues is the Suez Canal. And definitely the new Suez Canal. Both contribute significantly
Absolutely.
to facilitating transportation, not just to the area, but to the whole world. How do you view the Suez Canal and the new Suez Canal and their contribution to the economy, and how dear is that very precious canal area, and how we had put this area into our very much strategic plans?
Of course, when we talk about the Suez Canal, we talk about logistics. And what we face right now, it is a problem with logistics worldwide right now because of the Russian-Ukrainian war. And Suez Canal considered to be the main or the shortest way to go from east to west, from north to south, and so on. And remember, transportation costs considered to be one of the major costs which most of the world, when it comes to export, facing right now. So we can use our Suez Canal as a strategic weapon for really enhancing the both sides of the Suez Canal to build really some facility over there in the both sides of the Suez Canal, in order to have an assembly, for example, instead of transforming or transporting raw material, we can have a feeding industry, as you mentioned, small business and intermediate size business as a feeding industry for this foreign country in the both sides of the Suez Canal. So we can use it as a mean of transportation, and also as a mean of industrial area in both sides of the Suez Canal.
You mean
we
here
started
as
already
the-
on that. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No. You mean here as a logistic hub, services, stations, and
Absolutely,
all?
absolutely.
Yes, please go ahead.
So as you mentioned, as Suez Canal, we can really market Suez Canal not only as a mean for transportation, but as a mean for attracting business assembly business instead of transforming or transporting raw material. We can really have a feeding industry to make a component part instead of raw materials, and that is, it will be a win for whatever foreign country and a win for Egypt beside the income from the fees of going through Suez Canal. It is a model like, for example, Jabal Ali in Dubai, for example. We can have it, and we can have it in more an effective and efficient way in Suez Canal. But we have to work on it, and we have to really see what we can do in order to attract this foreign direct investment in this specific area besides Sinai, by developing what we call it as a feeding industry in order to facilitate the shipment through the Suez Canal.
But there is
There is, yeah, but we need more
the
and more.
Suez Canal
Yeah.
Authority, and it is very much playing this very constructive role in this area, preparing it for being a real logistic hub.
Yes, and China play a very important role in that. For example, they have a lot of projects in Suez Canal right now.
Definitely part of its very ambitious
Absolutely.
plan, the Silkway, or yes, indeed. Beside all that, we're speaking here about the prominent cities that are within the Sinai Peninsula. And there are lots of cities, Ismailia, Port Said, Suez, lots and lots of cities that has been a center focus for development. Your comment?
Remember, we used to have, like 10 years ago, we used to have only one way, one tunnel, which is Shahid Ahmed Hamdi tunnel, and one Salam bridge. Now we have several bridges, we have several tunnels, and that is close the gap between the neighbor area like Port Said, like Ismailia, like Suez, and it really, it's in the border of Sinai. And that it helped the traffic or transportation or logistic between the mainland and Sinai. And that is really what we have to look for the future, is to help people to have a social life in Sinai from this three city. And we have a good model. For example, we have unemployment rate in Dumyat, for example. When we build a furniture city in Dumyat, the unemployment rate is 0. We can reach that with our neighbor, the neighbor city like Port Said, Ismailia, and Suez, and Sinai, in order to let them immigrate over there in order to work in this industry and so on. Of course, you need, as your report mentioned, we have a lot of hospitals, you have schools, you have university, and so on. But what I'm saying here, we need more and more. We have to really heavily invest, whether it's local investment or foreign direct investment and governmental investment in Sinai. Sinai, I believe, it's the safe haven for economical development in Egypt and for the growth rate in the future in Egypt.
But it is. When we speak about the comprehensive strategic plan for Sinai, then we have to also speak about agriculture, because agriculture has taken part of this very comprehensive plan, and there has been lots of agricultural projects that have been done. The irrigation system, for an instance, Bahr al-Baqar waste water treatment plant, one of the biggest in the world, and maintaining water resources to expand the lands. How do you view the situation of agriculture in Sinai, and how did the government work on that?
There is a lot of medical plant in Sinai, by the way, where they use it in pharmaceutical, which is really in Santa Catherine and in many other parts of Sinai, which they have the suitable environment for this medical plant in Sinai. And also with the irrigation system, where we have the rain and so on, we utilize all that, or the water supply in Sinai. It was a very short for a long time, but now with the help of agriculture, with the help of the Ministry of Irrigation, we start to have a water supply in Sinai, which enable to really develop develop like a 1 million acre for agriculture in Sinai. And that it happened already, and we start to see the outcome of this kind of project in reality right now. Beside that, there is a fishery industry in Sinai, which is really bring a good quality of fishery, and we are able to export most of our production outside of the world. And that is bring really hard currency to the Egyptian economy.
Definitely, exportation is
Absolutely
a main focus nowadays for the state. And connecting Sinai to the mainland and Africa to Asia. This is what Sinai do. From your point of view, how do the world look into the development of Sinai?
I will tell you one thing. It happened to me personally. I was traveling from New York to Cairo, and I met one of my students, and by accident I told him what you have been doing in the state. He was in a convention in Orlando, Florida, and he told me he was really like a dealer for diving watch. And he told me in that convention they ranked the hottest, the most important hotspot for diving worldwide. And believe it or not, we have it in Egypt from rank number 1 to rank number 5, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. It is in Sinai, from Ras Muhammad and many other spots in Sinai.
Now we're speaking about tourism.
Yes,
Yes, indeed.
And this is in this convention. When I asked him how many people in that convention, that is in Florida, not in the hot spot. He told me over 5,000 people, and he spent like 2 weeks in that convention. And really, it bring me, once you mentioned that, why we don't look for convention like that, where the world rank for the hottest spot worldwide. We have it in Egypt, but we really don't really take advantage of this kind of event and have it in Egypt, and we can have it in Ras Muhammad, we can have it in Sharm el-Sheikh, and so on, to attract this kind of business. When 5,000 people come and attend a convention from the whole world, that is a mega propaganda for Egypt, mega marketing for Sinai worldwide.
But Sinai has it all. I mean, here, the Holy Family roots.
Absolutely.
The Saint Catherine, the Musa mountain, and Sinai, the entertainment, the cities for the beaches like Hurghada, Sharm el-Sheikh, Ras Muhammad, as you said, respectively here, and many touristic sites, many inside Sinai. How do you view the potential of tourism in Sinai as an attraction for tourists?
First of all, let me start. We can use Sinai as a holy land. Holy land means the only spot in the whole world where God spoke to Moses. It was in Sinai, if you recall that.
Yes.
And that is a plus. That's why I'm saying it's a blessing piece of land in Egypt is Sinai. Sinai, it has all different resources, but until this point of time, we didn't really maximize the use of what we have right now. And as you mentioned, for example, when for Jesus, for example, it came through Sinai and so on. The Holy Family,
yes.
and that so we can have it as
Also the daughter of Prophet Muhammad, also
absolutely.
Moses.
So for
taught.
all different
So
religion went through Sinai, and we can market that in religious kind of tourism. And for example, for diving, it's another side of tourism. Sharm el-Sheikh, it is a huge source of income when it comes to tourism, and the water over there, it is magnificent. It's clear like a whistle. And all of that really, we should really focus on that, whether it is a religious tourism, but you have to really advertise that in a very simple message, not in a complicated message. And we have to be able to market ourselves, not among each other, but for the rest of the world, and to come and see it in terms of religious tourism, in terms of diving tourism, in terms of enjoying the sun and the scene of Sharm el-Sheikh and so on. And all of that in Egypt, plus, so we are talking about several sectors now. We're talking about industrial sector, we're talking about agriculture sector. We have a lot of opportunity, and tourism, we have it in Sinai. And
actually, Sinai has it all.
absolutely, absolutely.
And it's just part of Egypt.
It's a part of Egypt, and,
Very precious one.
it is the center of the world, as many historians mention. You locate Sinai
Yes.
as the center of the world, and we should take advantage of that.
We are. We
Yes.
are. Sinai is a center focus for the state.
Absolutely.
It has been, it will always be, and it's a very precious part to
Absolutely.
us. Dr. Said Al-Kholy, Professor of Economics, thank you so much for being with us and for your input tonight.
You're very welcome anytime.
Thank you. I guess that takes us to the end of this episode. Next debate will be on Sunday. Many thanks for watching, and good night.